All right. Thank you, Dr. Schwartner. Glad to be here. You know, it's kind of hard. I've not done one of these before, so I wasn't sure what to expect or what you want me to talk about exactly. I mean, we've talked about several conversations, so I hope that I meet your expectations. And I'm pretty informal, so if you have any comments, questions, concerns, want to throw something at me in the middle of it, you know, just shout out, and hopefully I can try to answer that, or, you know, we can go from there. We'll see how it plays out. But I called today's talk Connecting Science to Society. And when talking with Dr. Loney, we were talking about how we're doing science work, right? How many of you are enrolled in the PhD program? Okay, anyone else working on a degree right now? Who else in here is working on a degree right now, right? Okay, so we're doing, how many of y'all are in what we would call a physical science or a hard science, not a social science? Okay, most of you, yeah? Okay, and so that's what I was gonna share up here is, like he mentioned, my undergraduate degree is in animal science. So I was, you know, always had those good math and science grades in high school. I was a little nerd. I loved my animal science classes, although don't take me back to Equine Science 201. I got a B in that class, and it really should have been an easy A. I know nothing about horses, and I thought I knew everything at that point, so that was another wake-up call for me. But I love science. I think it's important, it's exciting, and I love to teach that and see my kids, not my own kids, my 4-H kiddos, love to see them grow and all that. And then I went across campus, and I went to the Department of Ag Education, and they've changed their name now, where it's ALEC, Ag Leadership, Leadership, Education, and Communications. We did all those things, they just changed the name. And so I went from this, animal science was a great place to be, again, physical science, hard science, but then I went over to these ag ed classes, and we're a social science now. It's very different for me to come and see that, and I've learned the value of that. And then I was crazy and got this wild hair and came back to school here and graduated just over 5 years ago with my EDD in the College of Education, Educational Leadership and Policy Studies. I think they've changed the name of the department too. I think my degree actually says something different than that, but that was what I was when I started. And so I have gone from animal science, and I went over to Ag Ed, which is the social science group in the College of Ag, right? And then I went way over here to social science in the College of Education. So very different. It's been an interesting journey, and I hope I can share some of my experience from that with you. But a little bit more about what I've done. My current work with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service, I am the volunteer specialist, the extension program specialist for volunteer development. So like he said in the bio, I work with county extension agents. I work with volunteers. I do get to do some troubleshooting with problems. I was telling them all, I got one in my inbox, someone doing not intelligent things or boneheaded things, and we've got to help address that. So those are one of the fun things that I've learned in some of my social science classes on how to work with those folks. And if any of y'all know Dr. Muir, I sat next to him at lunch earlier today, and he talked about that, about how, you know, we're scientists and we're doing these things. We're doing research, we're getting grants, we're doing projects, we're doing cool stuff. He said, but when we get out, he said, you know, he remembers this when he got out of school, right? He didn't know how to manage a project, didn't know how to manage people. And so that's a skill set that you need to develop if you're planning to make a career in this way, or gosh, anywhere in the world, you have to work with people, right? And so generally speaking, you have to work with people. Anyways, that's what I do now. I'm the volunteer specialist for AgriLife Extension, and I work agency-wide, statewide. So I know my intro is a little 4-H-y, and that is my background. I was a 4-H member. I was a 4-H county extension agent. I was a 4-H district specialist. That's a job I had prior to this for 11 years. I'm a 4-H mom. I'm a 4-H volunteer. All of that in there. But I do work beyond the 4-H program. I work with our Master Gardener program, with our Master Naturalist, our Master Wellness. I work with those coordinators very closely. And so that's the whole concept of those Master Volunteers, is taking science out to the people, taking education that's going to improve their lives out to the people. And then just general volunteers that we have in our other programming. So I do all of that. And I often say that I worked in Indiana for a whole 7 months. I lived in another state for 11 months. I have worldly experience. I say that tongue-in-cheek because I know that's only a glimpse into the world outside of this realm. And I went to go work for Extension up there, of all things. And it was neat to see the differences and the similarities. We have the same goals and the same challenges, but we may go about it in a little bit different way. So always keep your mind open to new experiences and not just say, well, this is the way we do it, this is the way I do it. And then a few other things on here. I have been married for 16 years. I love to tell about my family when I'm talking to a group to make a connection. I am a human. And there's a person behind here. And this is, I love to share this picture. It's a silly little picture we took at a wedding. They had a photo booth, and those are my crazy kids and family. My kids are 12, 10, and almost 4. He'll be 4 at the end of this month. And I have been a 4-H member and a 4-H volunteer for most of my life. I'm trying to think what else. I grew up on a hog farm. That's the other nifty thing I like to point out there. So I do have that animal science, that swine background. And then the other thing that's covered up there with a little Zoom thing is one day I'm going to have a business called Lala's Ugly Pie Company. I make really good pies. They're just not very pretty. They taste very good, though. So that's me. All right, so I want to start off with a little activity in true social science form. Normally we don't do this in, oh wait, I'm missing, oh, these papers are over here. You don't normally do this in a seminar, right? But I've got to demonstrate the social science aspect of all of this. Okay, so what we're going to do is these papers can only go to people in this section. So make sure everyone gets one. These papers, I'm going to give you over here, can only go to people in this section. So make sure, will you pass them out, make sure everyone gets one? And then my friends over here, we're going to give you, we're going to divide y'all up. Oh yeah, go ahead and pass them down. That might be easiest. Take one down. How many more do we need? And I want y'all to know, do we need? I want y'all to know that I'm a nerd and I have learned how to print on sticky notes. So if you want to know how to do that, it's super cool. Here's one for you. I'll give you one here. Here, you get to be this. Hi, Dr. Haslett. Are you laughing at me? Mm-hmm. All right. Here we go. We take one down and pass it down. Okay.
No, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you.
Oh, okay. That's cool. How many more of these do we need? You good?
Yeah.
You good? Okay. And then I think we need a couple more over there. I'll make my way. This group over here, I'll walk to the front. It's easier to walk through. I'm not in my skinny jeans. Okay, so this side of the room. Here you go. Oh, okay. Oh, you've got one of those, and then I'll give you one of these. Okay, so this side of the room over here, you are an R. You can only talk to the people who are C's. So all these people are R's. Who are our C's over here? Raise your hand. Who is a C? You can only talk to the C's. Okay, C's, you can talk to anyone in the room. Okay, V, who's a V? Okay, V, you can talk to the C's or to the P's. Our P's are over here. Our P's have questions. Okay, and our R's have the answers to the questions. Okay? And so you need to get your answer. You have a question, and you need to get your answer from the R's. But you can only talk to the C's or the V's. Okay? You can only share information with the C's or the V's. And the R's, you can only talk to the C's. You follow me? Okay, so go. Do your thing. Get your information over there. Sorry for my folks online, y'all are missing out a little bit. But it'll make sense in just a minute. What I've done is the group on one side of the room, they're the R's, and they have extension publications with information. And the folks in the middle don't have any information, but the P's on the other side of the room, they have a question written down. How's it going? Are you making any progress? Find a C. Find a C that can help you get information. Go ask a C. A C or a V. Go ask a C or a V. Go ask your question to a C or a V. Okay. So she's an R. She can only talk to a C.
I got an answer for you. Okay. I have an answer for you.
Okay. What do we got? What do we got? Oh. So did you find? Have you got someone got the information yet?
Someone got the information and they asked and then I answered.
Okay, very good.
Why do you make the job tricky?
I know, I'm so rude.
I need this.
Do I definitely have a match on that side?
Yes. Oh, you know what? There were a couple that weren't used. Oh, that's really funny. Okay, so there were a couple that weren't used. Oh, so maybe. No, not that one. What publication do you have?
You can only talk
Oh,
with
the roses is right here. No, yours is out there.
researcher and the question.
Who has the forage and cattle one? McGriff does. Yeah, yours is the other one that no one took one of the questions. So
Nobody wants to talk now.
so you have this great information and no one has a question for you.
I've done my job well in the past. I'm kidding.
Did you get your information relayed? No one's asked you anything? Okay, so we've got some R's over here who haven't had questions asked of them yet. The answer? Or no, you can go have it. We can just kind of learn. Are we good? Let's see. Let me. You can only talk to C's. No, yeah, your question didn't get asked. Oh, okay. All right. Hey, did we make another match? All right. If y'all want to go sit back down, we'll talk about that a little bit. Okay. Oh. I got to give props to my colleague who walked out of the room. This was actually her idea, and I thought it was kind of fun, so I fleshed it out a little bit more. But if you didn't figure it out, the R's, y'all were my researchers, okay? Y'all had the knowledge, y'all had the information. My C's, who are my C's? You are our county extension agents, okay? Who are my V's? Okay, you are our volunteers. And over here, the P's, y'all were the general public. Y'all had questions, okay? So in a sense, this is the extension system in action. This is the land-grant university system in action. We'll flesh it out a little bit more, but what was challenging for y'all? What was challenging for our P's? Didn't know who to ask first? Anything else? A lot of people to pick from, okay. Not sure who the right person to ask was. Okay, our R's, what was difficult about that? No one would come and ask, and you had all this great information and no one asked you. What about our folks in the middle? What was your frustration, or what worked and what didn't work?
I arrived late because one of the researchers works only with the V.
Oh, so you were behind the 8 ball. Okay, so you were late. Okay, and that happens, right? That happens. Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit more as a whole. It's got all the stuff at the top, but that's fine. Land-grant colleges and universities, how many are you familiar with the land-grant system? Have y'all talked about this? Are you familiar with this at all? Okay, we've got some hands, not everyone. And so basically, I'm going to go over this part very quickly, but federal government sold some land or gave some land to every state, said go sell it, use those monies to build a university, is what they did. And so it's 1862, and then in 1890 was the second Morrill Act, Morrill Act, and that in Texas, the 1890 institution is Prairie View A&M University, and in the 1862 land grant is Texas A&M University system. So Tarleton is a part of this system, this bigger picture. I don't know, how many schools do we have in the system? Is it 13 or something? Something like that we have in the system. So Tarleton being one of them, West Texas A&M, Kingsville, I was going to say A&I, but we don't call it that anymore, Commerce. Did I say WT? So what did you say?
Central Texas.
Central Texas? Okay. Anyways, there's a bunch. There's a bunch out there, right? And so here, established institutions in each state so that members of the working class could obtain a practical education. And that's a nifty little map of all the land grants across. And in 1994, there was another act passed that supported the Morrill Acts as well. And the Hatch Act of 1887, so this one came a little bit later, this established the experiment stations. How many of you have ever heard of an experiment station? Or in Texas, we call it AgriLife research or research. You call it research if you know you're smart like that. AgriLife research, and that established the experiment stations in all of these places. And Seaman Knapp is known as the father of extension. And this gentleman went out and he was a professor of practical and experimental agriculture at Iowa State. His idea was hands-on demonstrations. So if any of you ever take any social science, crap, now I'm drawing a blank on his name, experiential education. What? Cole? Kolb, okay, yeah, that's one of them. Anyways, experiential education, hands-on learning. That's where that comes from. And we had knowledge, right, that we needed to get to the farmers, that we needed to get to agricultural producers, and they weren't listening necessarily. But here's this phrase that's attributed to Seaman Knapp: is what a man hears, he may doubt. What a man sees, he may possibly doubt. What a man does himself, he cannot doubt. And so that goes back to our demonstration and whatnot of this research that we've got. And so he was a precursor to all of this extension stuff. In 1914, the Smith-Lever Act was passed, and that established the Cooperative Extensions Program. All of us established me, the reason I'm here, the reason I have a job. But the idea was to take that information from the research side of things and use our extension service to extend that knowledge from the university to the public, okay? We take that knowledge, that science-based information, and take it to the public. And so I like this statement here. I kind of stole it from a friend, from a colleague. The Smith-Lever Act gave extension a broad clientele base, the people of the United States. The people, our public, our general public. Y'all over here represented those folks. And W.C. Stallings was the first demonstration agent in a single county in the United States, which happened to be in Smith County, Texas, Tyler, over in East Texas. And this is a picture of him with the Boys Corn Club in 1909, which is the forerunner to modern 4-H clubs that we still have today. So kind of a nifty little history there. But as I mentioned, we had the Morrill Act in 1862 and 1890 that established the teaching component of the land grant system. Then the Hatch Act in 1887 for the experiment station for research. And then in 1914, we had the Extension Service, the Smith-Lever Act that was passed. It established all of those things, all of those components, which leads to all of our goals in the middle is service. That's the point of the land grant system, is service to the general public, okay? And gosh, I had a great thought, and it's since left me. But anyways, it established all of these pieces. Oh, I know what it was, the three-legged stool. Have you ever heard of that analogy with a land grant system, the three-legged stool? No? Okay, so that's a common analogy that's used all over in land grant institutions, in extension services and whatnot, meaning teaching, research, and extension. 3 legs of a stool to have a solid base. I was reading an article the other day, and he was saying rather than thinking of it as a 3-legged stool, think of it as a 3-corded braid. Because a 3-legged stool can get wobbly, right? One can get weak, one can get stronger. Instead, let's think of it as a 3-corded braid. So think of a braid, how you braid the cords together and how they're interwoven with one another. And I really think that's a better analogy for what we do for teaching, research, and extension. So here, you're at the university level, you're that teaching component, right? Some of you will venture off into research, right? And some of you hopefully will come over to this great organization called Extension, and you can share that knowledge with others. And so that all comes together. In Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service, our vision is helping Texans thrive, and we have a mission to work daily to make Texas better by providing innovative solutions at the intersection of agriculture, natural resources, youth, and health, thereby improving the well-being of individuals, families, communities, businesses through education and service, okay? And we have the capabilities to do that. We provide programs, we provide tools, we provide resources, information, education to the general public. And that's our goal, to enrich their lives, to make their lives better. In Texas, we have 250 county offices that serve. Anyone know how many counties we have? Does it say up there? Oh, it does say all 254 counties. We do have a couple of counties that are dual, that serve dual purpose in some of our more rural areas. But we have a presence in every county in the state of Texas. And if you've ever heard the term cooperative extension, like I've mentioned before, used to be in our name. We've changed our name like 3 or 4 times. We have a presence everywhere, and we have a cooperation between the federal government. This was all established by the federal government, right? And then we have a cooperation with state governments. We get some state appropriated funds, and a cooperation with our local county governments. We've got a county extension agent in the room and a couple of former agents as well in the room. And I would get 3 paychecks a month. Got one from the state, and I got another portion of my check from the county twice a month. So it was truly a cooperation between all of these entities working together to make the extension program what it is. Extending the university to the people. I think that's an important goal of what we're trying to do here. We have great employees, so how do we do all of this? How do we do all this? We do it because we have all these wonderful people that can help us in all of these program areas. And I realized I've probably left off some of these program areas. But we have county extension agents, which are based in counties. We have extension specialists and extension program specialists like myself. And we have program assistants, program coordinators, facilitators, directors, managers, all sorts of things. We have support staff at all different levels. So we're talking administrative assistants and things like that. And we have volunteers. And our volunteers are critical, our V's in here, right, to help get that information to the public. Because maybe a volunteer, knew a public over here, knew a person over here, and they knew that they could go through you to get that information. Or you've represented yourself to the public to say, I have this information, come ask me your question. And so I've listed a bunch of these program areas up here, Ag and Natural Resources, Family and Community Health, 4-H, Horticulture, Integrated Pest Management, BLT, we have lots of acronyms in extension, not bacon, lettuce, and tomato, but our Better Living for Texans, which is a nutrition education, health awareness for limited resource audiences, expanded food and nutrition education, and FNAP there, marine health. Our newest one is DAR, Disaster Assessment and Recovery, and those are county extension, or not just county extension agents, but they are out in the field. So we have a whole bunch of people deployed right now in the Texas Panhandle with the wildfires. During Hurricane Harvey, they were there. They were helping to get supplies needed to livestock producers, to farmers and ranchers to get them the things that they need. And so I know, like, other things I'm thinking about that I don't have on here is ag economics. We don't necessarily have county extension agents for ag economics, but we have extension specialists for ag economics. What else am I missing? Ag law. We do have an extension specialist that specializes in ag policy, ag law. Yeah. So all of these we support together. We're one large network. Many of our specialists are housed on campuses at universities, and so there is that tie there. Many of them have joint appointments between teaching and extension, or teaching and research, or extension and research. So there's kind of a mix or match there. They have joint appointments so they can work together a little better. Okay, so I said back here, I said volunteers are one of the critical tools that we use to get our information out. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about volunteers and how important they are to us as an agency. They are the key for us in extension education. And we can't do what we have to do. I was on a webinar this morning, a conference call with our county extension director. That's another title I didn't put up there. Our county extension director who is in Tarrant County, that's Fort Worth. She said they have 2.2 million people in the county, and they have 11 county extension agents and 4 paraprofessional staff. Do the math on that real quick, right? Can you imagine being one of those 11 agents trying to reach 2.2 million people? It's not possible. It's not physically possible. So what we do is we use volunteers. Volunteers can provide so much to us. And that means you in this room can be a volunteer where you live and work. You can provide input. As a matter of fact, right, we have our Futures Forum going on right now, our Texas Community Futures Forum. We're getting ready to ask the people in the counties, what do you need? How can we help you? What information do you need? And that helps drive our programming. That helps us tell us, we say the grassroots effort, it helps us to know how we can help you as the public. So the first bullet point up there I think is so important. Volunteers help ensure that our programs are relevant. So when you come to this meeting with your county extension agents, you can tell them these are the things that we need. And if they don't have an answer right now, they will go find you an answer or get you connected to the right people. We always called my county extension agent Superwoman growing up. She, if we didn't have, I'm probably making a lot of noise on that microphone. I'm sorry. That was my necklace. We used to call her Superwoman because if she didn't know the answer, she's like, I don't know, but I'll get back with you. She would go figure it out, and she goes, okay, so I couldn't find you this, or this isn't exactly what it's there, but I found this and this and this and this. Okay, so that's what a county extension agent does. They go help you find that information and give you research-based, unbiased information. So it's not being paid for by some company that's driving what they want to hear, or what their message is from an organization or from a business. This is unbiased, scientific-based information. So they provide relevancy to, I got on a little rabbit trail there, but they provide relevant information. They extend our impact and our services. So like I was just talking about, 2.2 million people in Tarrant County, and we've got 15 professionals. We're not going to get that done. We need to rely on our volunteers to help us to reach those folks. They can be effective spokespersons to communities to help get financial resources or other resources, capital equipment, those types of things. They can help tell our stakeholders, aka our elected officials, about how wonderful we're doing, give them more money. They need a bigger budget. Extension's doing great. Go tell your elected officials to give us more money. We could use it. Actually, what's really funny is during one of the budget cycles that we talked about recently, 92% of our budget is salary, is human capital. It's not cars or computers or businesses or buildings or capital equipment. It's people. That's what we're in the business of doing. And so, we need to pay those people, so that they can come and keep giving this great information out there. But they bring their talents and resources, and they can dedicate time and effort. So, for example, if you've got a volunteer, like I'm thinking of our master gardeners, they're very passionate about gardening and horticulture and helping people, helping answer those questions about their lawn, they're just excited about it, right? So as a county extension agent, I've got to answer those questions. I'm responsible for answering those phone calls and my tree is dying, my grass is dying, what is this pest on my rose bush? They're responsible for those types of questions and answering those things, but they also have to do 80 million other things, right? So they will answer those people as they can, but if we've got a dedicated base of volunteers that can help answer that, oh my gosh, that's me. And if they're passionate about it, maybe as a professional, I'm not passionate about this area. I still have to know about it because I'm a professional and I still have to learn about it. But if I can find a volunteer who's passionate about that, oh my gosh, that's amazing. That they can go help extend that knowledge and that reach out there. Okay, and I always like to say this. I was hoping that this was the next slide because it was on the tip of my tongue. I'm a fangirl of one of my colleagues. He works with our Master Wellness Volunteer Program, Andy Crocker. And I tell him every time I say this, I'm being his fangirl. But this is his phrase: volunteers are not a program, volunteers are a strategy. And what I mean by that is we talk about our strategies of the way that we get our work done. So as an extension professional, we go do lessons in a classroom, right? We go teach in a classroom, or we go do a program at a civic center, or the Lions Club, or we do a result demonstration, meaning like a field trial, right? A field demonstration out there in a farmer's field, right? Or we go to the senior center and we provide diabetes information. We go to, now I'm drawing a blank, but we go do these things, right? They were talking about this morning on that webinar, conservation of our master naturalist, native plants in new housing developments that are coming up in an urban area. And there's some plants that are in danger of being endangered. And so they're rescuing those plants and repotting them and rehoming them. So, I mean, like, they're passionate about that, right? They're excited about it, and it's something that they can do. They can extend our reach and help us get that done. So that's not something that I can do as an agent, but I can employ, I could do, I don't have enough hours in the day, but I employ my volunteers as a strategy, a way to get my work done. And so I just think that's such a powerful way to think about. We talk about our Master Gardener program. We talk about our 4-H program, our 4-H volunteers and them as a program, our Master Naturalist program, our Master Wellness Volunteer program. We think about delivering it like an educational program, but in reality, they're there as a strategy, as a way to help get our work done. So I just think that's such a profound statement. It's on a sticky note on my desk, actually. Okay, so as I talk about this, some of you may be in a position to work with people or work with volunteers. And so this is kind of some stuff that I teach new employees a little bit. It's very theory-based. It's not very practical like extension, right? But hopefully there's something practical you can gain out of this and your mindset and your ideas. And in a volunteer management and a volunteer administration situation, we look at two sides of the coin when we're managing volunteers. We look at management and we look at leadership. Sometimes the word development is on this side. So management being the rules, the policies, the procedures, the bumpers when we're bowling, right? To keep you in the lane, right? These are the rules. Don't do stupid things. Follow these guidelines. This is where the bathrooms are. This is how you request money. This is how you fill out this form. That's management, right? You got to do a background check, those types of things. Leadership or development is when we allow them to use their knowledge, their time, their talent, their skills, their creativity in making the program their own, right? And so we allow them, we don't micromanage them. We allow them to grow. We don't give them more rules, which I can write lots of rules. I can write a great rule, right? I can write those technical things, but to allow them to go and be our leaders, to be our voice, to be our vision. And so we have to be careful to not do this, where we can't make too many rules that people don't want to be a part of us, where our volunteers are gone and not a part of it. So we go back to this model. We want to balance between the two. And you can put lots of different words in here. I've seen, or an analogy, I've seen one like a seesaw between these types of things, and the balance between fun and getting our work done, right? You want a good balance of the two. You don't want it to be all fun because then we're not getting anything done. We don't want to be all work because no one's going to want to come back, So we've got to balance the two. So maybe that's what I should say. Fun and only doing the work, right? Maybe that's a better way to put that up there. Okay, but all of this exists, me as an extension professional or you working with people, not just volunteers, but this is based on volunteer work, but it's based on this realm, on this idea of being personally ready for volunteers. What I mean by that is how many of you are what we would call type A, control freak, micromanagers, like to be in charge, do it my way. I mean, you don't have to be that severe as I said it, but yeah. I want to do it, okay? I want to be the one to do it. I want to make this way. And a lot of our extension professionals are doers, as someone said in that webinar this morning. We want to do it. So we have to be open to the idea of allowing other people in and to help us, right? I'm saying this into a mirror to myself as well. We need to allow people to be able to come in. We have to be personally ready for them to come and realize that they may have knowledge and skills and resources that we don't have as an individual. So it exists in this realm of personal readiness. And then when this all comes together, you get that sweet spot in there, which is, this is the buzzword in volunteer work right now, engagement. We don't call it volunteer development, we call it volunteer engagement. Okay, volunteer management or administration, we're not using those words anymore, we're using engagement. Okay, that's the buzzword of the season that we're in right now, is engagement. When all of those pieces come together, we've got good policies in place so people know how to operate. We've allowed them enough creativity and fun and ability to do, and we're ready and we're supporting them. We're giving them what they need, helping answer their questions, and then they're getting the work done. That's where we're all in, it's like this synergistic thing, you know, we're all together in this fun place. And so that is I think they call this the volunteer delivery system model, and that's one way to look at it. There's this other model that we've talked about in Extension. I think the original article was published in 1971 by Boyce. I've looked at it, you know, it was typed on a typewriter. Am I going to make anyone feel old by saying that, right? I used a typewriter. My dad still has one on his desk. But this was written in 1971. This model, Isature, has been around forever, even before that. But in 71 was when it was first applied to extension work and applied to extension volunteers. And so you can't really quite see Isature up there, but it's ISOTURE. And the I and the S I a lot of times lump together. We need to identify where we need help. And so in working with our volunteers, we need to know, before we go ask them, we need to know what we need to get done. So we've got to ask them, we identify our needs. The next thing is we go select them. And that's when we recruit them and we do all those those things like a background check and that type of stuff. The O and the T I like to lump together as well, orientation and training. And orientation and training. Orientation is some of those things like, again, this is how you go get your background check done. This is where the bathrooms are. This is where you can pick up those resources. Hey, looky there. And so that's really funny. Whatever, I'm good. You can get the orientation there. The training is the part where we learn our subject matter. So if we're going to have a master wellness volunteer, I'm going to teach them how to teach diabetes education. I'm going to teach them about nutrition in a limited resource audience. So I'm going to give them the subject matter skills. The next one is, oops, it's not letting me click. No, you're fine. The next one is utilization. That's what the U is. Yeah. Okay. Utilize them, let them go, put them into action. Aha, there we go. Recognition, which is what my webinar was about this morning, showing appreciation for our volunteers. And then the last one is evaluate, to provide feedback. And if you look at the original literature on this, it talks about evaluating those volunteers almost like a performance review, like a performance appraisal. Now, I don't teach it that way anymore. I don't recommend our agents to do that way, but it's a good time to evaluate the program. When we've done an event, we sit down and evaluate. We talk about what we've done well, what we could do better. And so that's the Isature model. This is a newer, look at the word engagement up here, volunteer engagement framework. This is a newer model. I'm also going to be fangirling a little bit. I didn't put his name up here. I guess I took that slide out. Andy Crocker, along with some colleagues, they published this article in the Journal of Extension a few years ago, and talks about how there's a lot of management models around, kind of human resources models around, but there's not leadership and engagement models that are here to help with our volunteers. And so what they've done is they're trying to put that healthy mix of management and leadership together. And let's read this. Learning and empowering, understand how personal and community work intersect, use knowledge to promote individual growth and accomplishments. Sometimes people want to volunteer to get more information for themselves, to learn, to grow in a skill. Unlearning and stepping back. So as an extension professional, we have to learn that we don't always have to be the sage on the stage. That's a phrase, if you've ever heard in education. You're no longer the sage on the stage, you're the guide on the side. You're learning with them. You don't always have to know everything, which is hard for someone who's been, trying to know everything and help everyone or do all the things. And then you can see how all the processes fit together. And so in volunteer engagement means helping people in groups, unlock the potential for our individuals that are out there, frame your own solutions, see the bigger picture, identify and model the value of collaboration, ask questions about opportunities related to current and needs and priorities, discuss and determine what is doable given opportunities and resources. So it's a very broad approach in partnering, and I think that's one of the words that they use in this is partner and vision and goal setting that we do with our volunteers. When we're in this territorial mindset as the person in charge, as the employee, or as the boss, when we're in that territorial mindset, I'm going to do it all myself, we're not going to allow anyone in. As we grow and allow more people to help us, we get over into our transformational role. This is where we want to go. We want to see our volunteers as partners. We want to engage them. We want to get their feedback, their ideas, and not just get their ideas, let them help us implement these ideas. Let them help us get there. So your level of trust, involvement, and impact for everyone involved, the educator, the volunteer, educator meaning county extension agent, other states call them educators, volunteer, the agency, our community partners, etc. All of that goes up as we get farther on this end of the spectrum. But support and engagement with the extension system is built throughout. It's just whether they're interacting with me as the professional or someone else as a volunteer, right? And when we allow those volunteers, again, they can concentrate in an area or a time or a community where we're not already connected. They can help us reach folks that we may not be reaching already. Okay. I say that again because I think it's very important. Volunteers are our strategy, not a program. They are a way to help us get our work done. Some older models talk about thinking of volunteers as unpaid professionals in a sense, but still like you're the boss. And the newer models and the newer things that we're talking about engaging with them, making them a partner. If I can't say those words enough, engagement, partner, goal setting all together. And then, so now I ask you, how do you take your research and make sure it's disseminated to the right audience? How many of you have a project in mind already or some work that you've already worked on? No, or we might be early in, okay, I'm saying. So what you're doing, will it be beneficial to someone, right? The information be valuable, right? How do we get that information out to where it can be useful for someone? Any ideas? Have you even thought that far? My husband is a researcher nerd, and he used to work in wildlife genetics. And one of the guys that worked in his lab, we called him the creepy old guy in the lab because he kind of was. He had his own little corner over there. Great guy. But he did the research just because he liked to know the answer to it. He's like, that's cool. Move on. His peer, he would do the research, and he would go publish the research and, advance his career in that way as well, right? So publishing your research is one way to get the information out there, right? Right? We replicate studies. We get the information out there. But we have to be careful not to keep that information right here in the scientific realm, right? We've got to figure out a way to get it out there to go help people. And so if you work in a system like the land grant system, or you work for an industry that can be a partner with a land grant system, you can get that information out there to help people, like, what's the point of doing research, right? If we're not going to share that information with other people, if it's valuable. So I hope you're thinking about that somewhat in the process. It's not going to be the first thing that you're doing, right? My husband pipetted. I think they have machines or monkeys that do those things now. And so he, he did those types of things. That's not what he was thinking about when he was doing his research. But it is something to think about. How do we make a difference and share that information with others? And so I go back to that. I think I just said that. You've got this land grant system that you're plugged into. So when we do that research and we know that it's quality and we know that it's unbiased and we know that it's going to help someone, let's get it out there so that it can help someone, that it can make a difference. And, I put this in here. This is my title slide again, but I put a couple of other captions up there about maybe we could have called this research to practice, or maybe we could have called this connecting research to the people, or any number of other things that I want you to think about in your role. That was what we talked about. That's one of the things that she wanted me to iterate with you. We have extension, and we're here to help and share that information, and I hope that as a researcher, as a scientist, you're planning to take that information so that it can be useful for someone, and we are a vehicle to help you get that done. And so with that, I stop and I ask, what questions do you have for me? I promise I don't know everything, but if there's something that I can help answer for you.
So oh, go ahead, Dr. Jose, if you've got one first, go ahead.
I'm just wondering, do you have any data in terms of how willing, especially I'm thinking of farmers and ranchers, are to receive extension information, how that is changing over time?
You know, I don't have any of that data. And I guess in full transparency, one of the things I told her, I was like, I don't know if I'm the right person to talk about this. My job these days is very administrative and very managerial. Like I said, I deal with volunteers who are being problems, right? I run background checks on folks. So I don't deal in a lot of research these days. But that is an interesting question. I will say, especially in our technology age of where we are and how easy it is to pull out the Google machine and answer that question very quickly. Sometimes they're not coming to us, or they're getting bad information. I shouldn't say bad information, skewed information. We do have a lot of extension specialists that write grants and get partnerships with companies. And that's great and wonderful, but we have to be very upfront with them from the beginning that we're not just going to tell your story, we're going to tell the full story. We're not going to just make you look good, we want to tell the full story. And so I think in a lot of, especially our rural communities, those relationships are there, and those are so very important, and they're established, and they do come looking to us as extension professionals. I mean, we've got some folks that are closer to a county office than I was. Do you think that's still true? I mean,
Also because we offer them those added educational benefits like their CEU credits and things like that that they can't get from other entities.
Yeah, CEU credits, like she talked about, if y'all didn't hear that. Yeah, we offer some of those things as well that they're required to have.
Because we had some projects in the past where we're dealing with a watershed where farmers were getting information about fertilizer application rates from these specialists from companies, and the information from Extension was totally different.
Was different.
We're not listening to Extension or NRCS.
Okay, from other governmental entities, yeah.
Which is one of the biggest challenges. So if you look globally, agricultural research is a market failure from a dollar perspective and ROI and what we invest or don't. And so teaching this and going through it with the students on the graduate side in agriculture and consumer resources, the big challenges are my friend Google, but also companies are actually investing in these type of training programs that they go out and do with their customers. And so, well, why do I need?
And they're charging for it, and people are paying for it. Why do I need?
And so it comes back to community and relationships, and that's how you try to engage on that front. But I think it's something that Extension globally is trying to figure out as well, is how do you play in that sphere when there's so many, there's an overload now, how do you build those relationships?
Well, I don't think I have it with me, but or maybe I do. I guess it is. We have a new strategic plan, and I was looking at it the other day. Oh, that's something else. But you said something about meeting. The thought came to me, meeting them where they are, when and where they are. So, like right now with the wildfires, they're going out there and meeting those needs that they have. I wish I could find it now. But it did say something to that effect, meeting them when and where they are. And that's when and where they need us. That's what it was, when and where they need us. And it may have been on my slide with the vision. I don't remember that part in there, but yeah. So it is a challenge, absolutely is a challenge. So were you gonna ask something or say something, comment?
So, no, my question is for everybody in the room. So we have people who are engaged, they're passionate about something, they're continuing that educational journey, they're going to dig deep into something. What steps can they take now to help with that transfer of knowledge, to go out to people who maybe don't know what to ask, or I don't know who to go ask? How are there some tips or some ways that we can be proactive in that process?
That's a very good question. That's a big question.
It is.
I don't know, part of me is like, go post it on social media and share with all your friends. Okay, that's one way to go about it, right? Partnering with again, maybe back to some of these companies, these communities, these do those research demonstrations locally, like going back to that phrase of someone that does it. If you can involve people in your research and share that, I think that's a valuable thing. Again, Extension is here to help share that and help you figure out some of those things. Work with some of our specialists on the research side or on the Extension side. They do field trials, demonstrations, things like that. And by partnering and working with those folks, you can make those connections and start sharing that information. And I go back, I think about the Corn Club picture that I showed at the beginning in Stallings, Smith County, their Boys Corn Club. We talk about the reason they were doing that is because the old farmers weren't listening. They wanted to teach, if the old dog's not going to learn, we're going to teach the new dog tricks, right? And so they shared that information with the young kids, and they had bumper crops that did way better than their parents. And so there's a really cool picture somewhere of this little boy sitting on this huge pile of corn that he harvested. It's in another state, but it's one of those precursors to the 4-H clubs, the corn clubs, because those parents weren't listening. And so anytime that you can share and involve people in your research, I think that's a valuable thing. Oh, let's see what that is on my phone. I hit Do Not Disturb, but I guess I had an alarm set. All right. So what else? What other thoughts or questions? I know I just was so thorough and I covered it all. Yes, sir.
I'm in the wildlife department.
Okay.
My study site is at an agriculture center. So just asking, what is the best way to communicate from someone who's completely outside of agriculture with managers or agriculture managers like that? What would be the best way to kind of approach that?
Ooh,
Or how do I make sure someone outside of Extension that Extension is aware of kind of what I'm doing, so they might be able to utilize that as well?
cool. Do you have a thought?
Start with county agent.
Start with the county agent. Yep. Reach out to them. And they have those connections that, especially if someone that's been there a long time, those county agents are going to have connections with industry folks, bless you, with other researchers, with organizations or entities that can help you. So, that was an easy answer. County Extension agents there to help you.
And when you go to the agents, one of the things that I would share to jump in with that, we get really excited about our message. I have to tell you what is important to me. I have to make sure you know what is important to me. I am going to make sure you walk away knowing what's important to me. But was it important to them? And that's part of that meeting people where they are, when they are. So if you've got that study, if you've got that message, if you have that passion, sit for a minute and think about it from their perspective.
Always.
Hey, maybe this is what's really important to me, but my number 3 and 5 is their 1 and 2. So how can I play with that a bit so that when I go in and I know this and my energy is going to come through, I'm leading with what's really important to them. And I think extension agents are actually really valuable translators on that front.
They do.
Invaluable, because they know what's important in the counties and in the communities, and they can help you with that translation.
Yeah, and they've got those ties. They know the needs, they know the interest, but they can, most of them have a background, maybe not in ag education. They've got it in wildlife or animal science or nutrition or something, and so they've got a scientific brain, if you will. They've got the knowledge, the research. They understand that, and they can help translate that. I think of actually one of my dad's professors. He was retired by the time I got to know him, but my dad said he had this uncanny ability to communicate with, people top of the field and very scientific, very academia and very professorial, right? Very much up here, and to folks that didn't have a college or a high school degree. And he could communicate that message all the way across and make them all feel valued and make them all feel like they understood and they gained something from that. And so that's another important thing, I think, is relationships and understanding perspective of where people are at. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Very good. Other thoughts, questions, concerns? Awesome.
Well, please, everyone join me in giving Dr. Huebinger a vote of thanks.
Glad to be here.
So we joked at lunch. I said, now remember, the gates are always open. And now we're going to make sure you go home with some purple.
A purple,
So
yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I want to share just a touch on why we thought this was important to have today. So I'm actually going to get a little bit cultural with us on something that I love. So you have your volunteers are not a program, they are a strategy.
Uh-huh.
I have the honor of working with an international group, and a lot of the folks that are in it are from New Zealand, and they've introduced me to some proverbs from their indigenous peoples, the Maori tribe, and they have one that is, He aha tumia nui o te ao. He tangata, he tangata, he tangata. What is it that is the most important thing in the world? It is the people, it is the people, it is the people. The research is outstanding and important, and the science is vital to what we do and how we grow. We need the relationships, and we need the people, and we need to not only bring them along with us, but remember to meet them where they are. So thank you so much for your time and being here to meet our people and help bring them along with how Extension can partner and how we can learn from what you do. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really
Appreciate
appreciate it.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, absolutely.